Welcome back, everyone. Wildcat Fanalytics. Jesse and Mike are here with you on this nonstop thrill ride of an Arizona basketball season.
What more could you ask for, really?
Coming off the heels of yet another bizarre
Yeah,
experience for Arizona in the Pac-12 tournament. We were just sitting here trying to figure out how to even frame the Bear Down Award, and so I'll lead it off. It's okay with you, Mike.
please, please.
Just by sort of saying that was the final Pac-12 tournament that we will see in this iteration for the indefinite future.
Yep.
And and I really want to salute the fans because
Mm,
I never got to go. I never prioritized going to the Pac-12 tournament. I had a buddy of mine, Arizona grad, who we always talked about it like 10 years ago. We're like, sometime we're gonna go. We had little kids, and you know how it is. It's tough.
I do.
And
Yeah.
so it's over now. And I never went. And I always envied,
Missed that
I
opportunity.
always envied these people who went down to Vegas and got their can't say that I'm regretful that I didn't go this year, but there were
Right.
plenty of years in the past where I'm like, oh, those three days would have been great. So my Bear Down Award this week goes to the Arizona fans because you really those of you who went really represented. You deserved a better Friday night showing than you got, but you probably had fun anyway. And uh, yeah, I'll leave it at that. And I'd love to hear. You said a minute ago that you've been to a number of them, so
Yeah,
wonder
yeah.
if there's any nostalgia coming up.
I had a lot of love for the Pac-12 tournament. I lost that love this year where you and I talked about where we're like, look, you know what? I'm over it. But historically, I've had a blast at the Pac-12 tournament. When it was in LA, it was fun. It wasn't really well attended, strangely.
Hmm.
I think the first one I went to was the first time that Colorado joined. Your alma mater joined the Pac-12 and became Pac-12. And there was like a fair amount of Arizona fans, and then there was like a small contingent of Colorado fans that were rabid. I mean, just absolutely bonkers. And Colorado ends up winning that game. We couldn't believe it because we just thought, gosh, we're Arizona and they're lowly Colorado.
Was that
Um,
was that like 2012 or
I mean,
two,
whatever the first, yeah,
Kyle
probably whatever the
Fogg
first year. Yeah, I believe so.
and it was like an overtime game,
That sounds right.
the
Yeah,
championship. It was Miller against CU, like
yeah.
48-46 or something probably.
um, yeah, it was. That was that was fun, and then it got even better when they moved it to Vegas. It really did. I've been on the Wildcat Authority message board as always. Shout out wildcatauthority.com. Love those guys. Talking about how like the Big 12 next year is going to be more fun, and that I support going to Kansas City instead of staying in Vegas. I think it's going to be a cool way to focus on the hoops, and that's probably why I stopped going because I got old. Going to Vegas and like burning 3 days of like rooting for Arizona, and then releasing the anxiety and stress on the craps tables. Uh,
So it's not
but
just the
yeah,
players.
yeah, exactly.
Boom.
I mean, yeah, that's the cardiac cats. It's not just us as fans; it must be them too, because they're out there. Yeah, it's been fun, but we got what we rooted for. I guess we got a win in the first game, and then we ducked out of the second without any injuries, and like
Unintended.
like the team said, like, hey, it's not intended. That wasn't their intention, but it comes with some benefits, right?
Totally. This is the first year under Tommy Lloyd that we don't have any, as far as we know, significant injuries coming out of
Hmm.
that tournament, and um, that's that's pretty awesome for sure.
Incredibly awesome.
And I was so pumped after Thursday, not because I was attached to us winning the tournament. I was attached to us looking like an inspired team going into the
Yeah.
NCAA tournament. And so, off that USC loss, which was just so
Hmm.
deflating, um, excuses aside, it was amazing to come back and see what I was just telling you. I thought that was our two best defensive efforts that I saw on the eye test were USC in that quarterfinal, and then UCLA in LA a week before. So kind
Yeah,
of,
totally.
if you're looking for any of the contingency that holds the faith in Wildcat Nation, you know, two of the best defensive games happened in the last week and a half and sandwiched around two of the worst performances, which is why this team is so hard to figure out. But
Yeah,
that
I
game
mean,
against USC was super, super energetic on the
even
defense.
that even that first half against Oregon, right? Let's not let that slide. The second half, tough, really, really tough. Obviously, there was that 17-3 run that they took that really just knocked us out of the game. Like I think Cuisinart said, if we start scoring on they'll fold, and unfortunately we did. Hopefully that's not something that sticks with us. But that first half of that Oregon game, we played great defense, and so it's for me, this has been a stretch where we have played really inspired defense, and I know that was something that you and I were focused on early. Going, gosh, I know that these guys can score, but do they have that connectedness, and have they figured out their scheme to really fit everybody's skills? And it feels like they largely have.
Yeah.
That feels pretty darn good, like you said, going into the tournament.
Yeah. Well, let's
Yeah,
turn our focus towards the tournament then, shall we? Because
let's please.
that's what's happening in 2 days. Um,
No one's gonna remember that there was a Pac-12 tournament, on Thursday. This is just infinitely more important.
what have you been, where has your curiosity and attention been drawn in the last 48 hours after the brackets were announced? Because I know you've been diving into some analytics.
Yeah, I've been really focused on the transfer portal, actually.
Uh, for
The mystery
listeners,
box.
that's only he's only half kidding, and I have to admit that part of me is very excited about whatever shows we do in April. But
It's gonna be a lot of fun.
yeah,
No, but seriously, looking at Arizona and where we're at, we're one of six or so teams I think that really fit the type metric box of do you end up in the top 10 at the end of the year? Are you a conference winner? Do you have a top 15 offense and defensive rating and Ken Palm? It's a really, I think it's either six or four teams that sort of fit in there, and it's us, and it's UConn, and it's Purdue, and I think Auburn. So there's a lot of good. Look, does it feel good coming off of this kind of this wacky, deflating kind of up and down ending? No, but I know that these guys are focused on the tournament. I really do believe they are, and
what tells you that?
yeah, it's hope,
Okay.
faith.
That's
No,
that's enough. I'm just curious when people say that. I'm so fascinated by the Wildcat fans that still believe. So
yeah. So
that's fine. That's
it's
enough. Yeah.
it's and I see what and I look. There's twice that we had the opportunity to focus on the tournament that we didn't in a way, right? Where you go, look, if you'd have won against SC the first time, are you able to capture a one seed there? Because it was possible, maybe, right? Or if you win the tournament now, you still have the chance of snagging that one seed that UNC end up grabbing. In the end, um, I think we're fine with getting our two seed in the West, and that's okay. I think we achieved what we were looking for, a top two seed, stay out West, win the conference. And so I give the guys some grace that that last game against SC, despite me being in attendance, they didn't really seem to care. That's okay. Um, and the Pac-12 tournament, it's a little trophy compared to the big one. So um, the interview that I saw this week with Caleb and Keyshawn certainly helped buoy my
Mm.
sense of these guys are focused because I drew some confidence. I don't know if you saw that presser that they did this week, but
I haven't
it
seen
was
the
a
I watched the Tommy one, but not the yeah.
yeah. I didn't love the Tommy one,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
he's just a little
Yeah.
maybe flippant would be the rude way of saying it,
I
but
think that's a good adjective. Yeah.
yeah,
That's kind of his form of deflection is to be sort
yes,
of like casually flippant. And I don't think that's who
yes.
he is totally, but it's there.
You
And
were
there
a coach, and so you
yeah,
would
there
yeah
are coaches, if you watch, I think one thing that really has helped me, just as a quick aside, sorry, is that,
no.
I enjoy watching other coaches' press conferences.
Mm.
And you've got Mick Cronin, who's all the way out there.
Let's do the scatter chart. Start it
Yeah, yeah,
now.
yeah. Um, I really find myself drawn to the coaches that are sincere and transparent, but they really focus on what they can be responsible for and what their team can be
Mm,
responsible for. And there's a lot of maturity in that.
yeah.
And, those coaches are really endearing. And I think, you know, Izzo is a little, I think he might be just kind of like a little done with the whole
Yes.
scene, but he
Yeah.
he definitely has that. Um, I actually really appreciated listening to Nate Oates, though I don't
Mm,
think he's a great coach by any means, but maybe he is. I don't know. Um,
yeah.
and Tommy at his best is super endearing, but then there's moments where he does make excuses, and you have to wonder if that's somewhere filtering into, we'll get more into this in the off season because we're about to see, like I said last week,
Yeah.
they've been talking and saying all the right things all year. So now they get to prove it or prove
Or
prove to
not.
be fraudulent. So
Yeah.
unfair or not, that's about to happen. So you've taken a lot of faith from the words and uh I'm sort of I just like listened to so many press conferences during the Sean Miller era where it just all seemed to be BS by February. And so I was like, yeah, I don't really take stock into the words anymore, especially from the athletes. Because the athletes are just coached and to be fair to them, they're just trying to get out of there not doing any damage to their team.
Caleb and Keyshawn, you can just one, they've been there before, and you can just see they've set their jaw kind of thing, and they look like it's no excuses. They look like they're locked in. And so I'm
We'll
gonna I'm
see.
gonna I'm gonna say I'm a believer, but yeah,
Yeah.
like you said, recently, this is the end of prognosticating in a way,
Actions.
right?
Yeah,
This
show
is
me.
now we're there. It's funny because it's like uh, I love to do forecasting, right?
Mm.
Obviously, and
Yeah, right.
there's just no more use of it because we're gonna find out
Yep.
right now.
And the path is set. There's something neat about the brackets coming out because
Yeah,
it's no longer hypothetical.
totally.
So I really appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah, so diving into the brackets,
Yep.
Long Beach State, first off,
Yep.
they weren't supposed to be here.
Nope.
500 in the Big West, had fired their coach, as everybody's talked about. Kind of a miracle run through the Big West tournament, though it's not like they beat a murderer's row. UC Riverside, UC Irvine, who's the best of the
Irvine's
bunch, I
good.
believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then UC Davis is just, really mediocre as well. So, um, hadn't really beaten anybody. I guess they beat USC, earlier this year. They beat
Overtime.
Michigan, who
Mm.
who fired their coach. But what I really like about this matchup for us is they're like a miniature version. They're like a lower version of what we do.
Yeah.
They play it with a lot of pace. They like to put a lot of rim pressure on teams. They like interior passing, and they've got some. I think they've got some intriguing athletes. I think they've got some guys that can put you on your heels and can make plays. So
Yeah.
I'm excited to see how it goes.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's maybe, do you want to dive into any of the metrics or is that a fair enough summary?
For them, I mean, they play at the exact same tempo as us, roughly. They don't take a lot of threes, which is great for us. Like so,
Yeah.
how we've been beaten this season.
Yeah.
We've been beaten because people just drain, a barrage of threes on us. I feel like we've largely fixed that, but maybe not. Um, they pass the ball really well. They defend the rim pretty well, but
They do.
they're
Sixth in
just
blocks,
not.
right?
Yeah, which
That's
is
interesting.
nuts.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
kind of
it
wild
is.
because they don't
Um,
defend anything else really well at all.
No, and their two bigs aren't really their two centers that they can run aren't really great rim protectors. And
Right.
so it's a lot of help side stuff. There's their
Huh.
power forward that they play. I think he's great. I
Yeah.
was I aware of him 2 weeks ago? I was not.
Yeah.
Um Now that I've seen tape on him, I would take him for Arizona next year.
Interesting. You like him. Is that
Yeah,
Abukar?
yeah, Abubakar, what is it?
Hmm. Yeah, I don't.
Traore. Yeah, we're gonna find
Troy.
out. We're gonna find out
Mm.
how to pronounce the name. Yeah, he's 6'5" ish, but
Mm. He's like a Tunde,
yeah, he is.
mm.
He reminds me a lot of Tunde.
Little
Um,
leaner, maybe. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, only like 195
Hmm.
reportedly, but
Kind of like a Hassan Adams.
yeah, yeah, totally. Plays the power forward
Mm,
at 6'5" with nice athleticism and a high motor. Um, I think he can be doesn't really shoot it, but puts a lot of rim pressure on. He
yeah,
can. I mean, that guy can draw fouls in bunches. Now, thankfully, we've got it's kind of a perfect matchup for us where we got Keyshot and Pella that we can put on him. So that feels good. Even a KJ Lewis, you
yeah,
could put on him.
yeah.
And so I think we're uniquely positioned to be able to battle them, to stop him. And then the foul prone bigs is going to be tragic, I think, for Long
Yeah.
Beach State.
I could just see Tommy's game plan just being like, let's just do what we do
Yes.
really well. Get, bigs run the floor, look for the early post, get
Yeah.
get foul, get those guys in foul trouble, and then just
Yeah.
sl- I think the one thing that could get us into trouble is if we start settling for early threes because
Totally.
this team it seems, I mean, you can tell me you've done a little more research. It seems like this team could be fairly porous in terms of its slashing 2-point defense. And
Hmm.
so I feel like if we are just patient enough with Love, Larson, Johnson, KJ, Bradley, just slash and get to the rim, draw
Yeah.
fouls,
Yeah.
get those body blows. We should get a lot of high percentage twos.
Yes, I totally agree. And even if they are contesting and doing what they do, blocking shots, I just still want to see us getting down there, like you showed in that clip, last week or the week before, with
Mm.
Kylan getting downhill and really getting his body into a guy.
Yep.
You know, do that even if it's not successful. That's the right direction to be playing this team.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think what I was hoping for usually in the rest of the tournament, I'm anyone, anytime, anywhere. In After what we've been through with Princeton last year and everything before it, I was watching the smaller conference tournaments, just kind of like rooting for the one seeds to go down because I just don't. I'm just like, can we just focus on not the first round? And I think we got this could be, Long Beach could be a 16 in most years. I think this is going to go down as one of the
Yeah.
weakest, you know, 16 and 15 draws because so many top seeds went down. A big one
Yeah.
that's been overlooked is actually Princeton, that they blew it. They lost to Brown and
Mm,
like they were really good this year. They would have been probably a 12 or a 13 and they were better than last year. So um
brutal.
Long Beach is, how often, how tired are we of hearing Arizona fans say like they're a bad matchup for us?
Yeah.
We need to be up for the challenge enough to say that
Hmm.
there aren't bad matchups. There's only just like solving problems and coming out and being willing to accept the challenge is about what championship mindset is based on. Do you want to embrace a challenge or do you want to avoid it? And I am embarrassed but not ashamed to say in the first round this year, I'm okay with avoiding challenge. And I think we got as ideal a matchup as we could have gotten in Long Beach.
100%. I
Yeah.
think the one challenge that they're going to present is a good challenge for us. It's going to be an energy challenge. Are
Yes.
we going to show up and be excited to do what we do? Because if we do, because they're going to punch, these guys are going
Yeah.
to try to
They're gonna
come down.
run
They're
up and
going to
down. Yeah.
100%. They're
Yeah.
going to try to come downhill. They love downhill action. Just putting rim pressure on. And so, are we going to be tough and prevent them from getting those easy buckets and get out in transition and counterpunch them? If we do, that's a great
Yeah.
that's not really like a scheme thing. That's just, are you there? Are you
Yep.
ready?
Yep.
Yeah.
No, and I think what I mean is not, and no disrespect to Long Beach, but that this is an absolute as close to a no excuse matchup as we
Hmm.
we could
Yeah.
have ever had. That
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
just a matter of do you want to be here?
Hmm.
And I totally respect, you know, Monson and what he's done. And I think it's a 15 seed. You didn't even expect to be breathing here 2 weeks ago. Your coach got fired.
Yeah.
This is house money. So
Yeah.
psychologically, all that kind of tournament mystery still exists. And I think Arizona's at a point where there's just there's no neurosis, there's no excuses. You got to go out and have fun and play. And if you can't even do that in this matchup, then you've got problems that no sort of metric analysis
Yeah.
are going to solve. So
Yeah.
I think it's
Um,
just like go out and do your thing. And I like hearing, that's where I think Tommy's kind of let it rip is really good. Like this is a good fit for him, his coaching
yeah.
style.
Yeah. I agree.
So
Um,
So yeah, that's where I'm like, I'm not even looking at them. I'm going to watch the game. I'm going to enjoy it. I have a feeling we'll win by about the spread. I think the only
Spread's 20, by the way. Big
yeah,
spread.
that's a big
Yeah.
spread, and I think we should be right around there. And
Yeah.
the just with this team's personality, I think if fans want to rest easy, I think you can rest easy on this. We're not going to lose in the first round this year, and you can hold me accountable if we do. Um, by the way, I did say that last year. I thought there was no excuse for losing to Princeton,
Yeah. I said
and
the
there we
same, by the
were.
way.
So,
Yeah.
but I think Princeton turned out to be, a little bit better. I don't think Long Beach is going to turn out to be better. I think they're going to do what they do, and they're going to we're going to be impressed by some of it. But really, like
Yeah.
you said, it's almost like a practice because they're so
Hmm.
similar to what we do. So
Yeah.
if they beat us, there's absolutely no excuses, and good for them.
Yeah. Yeah, I texted you that I felt like this was, like our team plays them in practice every day by playing
Right.
ourselves,
It'd
and we
be
probably play a better
right.
version.
It'd be one thing if they were like East Tennessee State in 92 or Maryland Eastern Shore against Virginia, where it's like you got six guys that can shoot threes and all of a sudden you hit 15
Right.
threes. But they're not even that. So
Not at all.
they
Yeah.
shoot like the 15th fewest threes in the country. So
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be about
so
toughness and energy, and I think our guys are going to show up for that. I
You
believe in
know,
this group.
right. And so, just to transition into that possible second round game, I think with
Yeah.
watching this team and their sort of strange psychological pattern this year, I honestly
Hmm.
think the biggest concern with this Long Beach game is that we actually look like $1 million right from the gun and do one of our 52 to 27 at the half, but then give up 50 points in the second half and
Mm.
sleepwalk. I don't think we want that going into a second round game, which promises to be very tough, no matter who it is. So I'm not gonna
Yeah.
dwell on it because at this point, this is the end of the road. They're gonna do what they do. But
Mm.
I actually think we could, like you're saying, what could benefit this particular team the most is to have this game be fairly competitive and linear,
Mm.
like where maybe it's an 8 to 12 point game, and then halfway through the second half, we wear them down and push it to 20. But I
That's how I
don't
see it.
like it's fun as a fan. I want them to be up by 30 and I want to win by
Right.
50. But I think like it might serve our second round game if Long Beach plays really well and we have to play pretty well and stay engaged for 30 minutes, but then get to rest, the last 8 minutes or so.
I love that you don't trust the internal motivation of this team
Not at
after
all.
for
Not one
33
bit.
games or whatever.
Not one bit.
We were so hopeful this year.
I've got more than enough evidence to back me up too. No, I think Tommy needs to
um,
manipulate the score and like shave points to keep it close so that they stay engaged even. It's like that's how
get
pathetic.
Conrad in there,
Yeah, Connie and
Connie in the early first half.
well, Connie will expand the lead, man. I don't
That's the
yeah,
trouble. He's just too good to bring on.
yeah.
Looking at Dayton and Nevada, Dayton scares me, man.
Oh
Dayton, I
yeah.
don't want to play. Dayton, I don't want to play. Their defense isn't that great, but they play a really slow tempo. They love to shoot the three,
Yeah. And their
and
offense is very efficient.
the offense is very efficient. And I love Deron Holmes.
Mm, he's a tough
I
matchup for anyone.
he's such a tough matchup.
Mhm.
He can stretch the floor. He can pass it. He's a maestro in ball
Mm,
screens. I mean,
mhm.
that's the reason I was pining for him
Mm,
this past summer, talking about the transfer portal. He was my number one guy that if Tommy could get his hands on him, his ability again to stretch and then to pick and pop and to um, and to roll out of a ball screen as a 4 or 5. It's just tremendous what he does. And so, can you defend Umar Ballo? No, not at all. And
but he
so
but
I,
he's much more likely to have higher usage. Balo depends on everybody else getting him. That's why when
yeah,
people say like Balo as a matchup, I love the dude, but he's going to get you maybe 4 post ups and then he's going to miss some free throws. Whereas this guy is going to be, like you said,
yeah.
orchestrating from the point of attack rather than needing to be
Hmm.
dependent on a receiving end.
It's a great point for March, right?
You know,
Yeah, and that's what they always say. You need a guy who can go and get you a bucket, and you look at Ballo as being maybe one of the MVPs of this team, arguably. And he's not a guy who can really go get you a bucket. He's a guy you got to go set up to get a bucket,
And
right?
one of the hidden criticisms I think you've done a good job calling out is this team has not been at least not been as good as others in terms of just basic
Right.
post entry
Totally.
skill and intuition. And so I think that's
Yep.
been a subtle underlying factor that's kind of made our offense more vulnerable at times.
Totally. A second earlier on post entries or just a more confident post entry pass would do wonders for this team. And obviously, it's just too late in the season to expect any different.
Totally.
So,
Yeah,
looking at this, yeah, looking at your chart,
I started basic, just offensive deficiency and defensive. So on the Y is the
hmm
offense, on the X is the defense, and this is just Pac-12, Mountain West, and A10. And I'm actually having trouble finding Nevada, which means they're probably buried somewhere in here. So probably towards the mean. But you can see Dayton. It's pretty clear we don't have to do too many of these to see Dayton's a pretty solid offensive team. The adjusted offense is just about where Arizona is. The defense is a little above average. They're both in this top right quadrant, which is the best.
hmm
And I don't see Nevada, so I'm gonna assume they're probably not them. Or are they them? No. What kind of elements would you like me to test here? I've gone through a bunch of them. What are some of the yeah, this is
Um,
this is your account, by the way, so thank you.
don't yeah, don't tell anybody. Um,
Effective field goal percentage is kind of a cool one.
yeah. I am really curious about offensive rebounding,
Okay,
but I don't know how to.
I got it.
Yeah,
I think rebounding is what we're doing for the people listening is looking at stats that we think actually tell an accurate story about the teams, which is kind of fun. And
yeah,
it
and
doesn't mean that
and
we're right, but
yeah, and FYI, Nevada, I found them on that chart. They're pretty close to like a Washington State or a Utah. A
yeah.
little bit better offensively, but about that good of a defense.
How about
And
you said offensive rebounding?
yeah, yeah,
So here's offensive rebounding percentage adjusted. Um, and I can just leave the offensive rating here for a second. So here's Arizona elite offensive
yeah.
rebounding. There's actually only a few teams.
I say that just to make us feel better.
Okay, let's look at the feel
This is
better
really
stats first. Yeah.
this is fan service really. Um,
So Dayton's
Dayton though,
Dayton's
not
average. Yeah,
yeah, not really even above average. Nevada, same thing. Just really average. They're in there.
there they are. Yeah, they're very average right here, right
Yeah.
behind Washington.
So
They're very similar to
so
Washington.
that I don't know that you said it before. Like I don't know that fans have appreciated how bully
Hmm.
ball we've been on the offensive boards and
At
how
both
much
both
that
ends.
leads. Yeah, both ends really, and how much that leads. Like, again, Omar Barlow being just a monster on the defensive boards. He shot being tremendous, and all the guards really. Well, Caleb and Pella, but a lot of Caleb stepping up and being great rebounders for their positions.
If you want to feel
Now,
really good about Arizona, you put defensive rebound percentage on the y-axis and offensive rebound.
nice.
Look at that.
Yeah,
Who's this?
that feels
Purdue?
good.
St.
Who is
Mary's.
this?
Mm,
Ooh,
mm.
in our region. That might be and that's adjusted, right?
This is adjusted, yeah.
Yeah.
But
So,
I guess the question is how much does this matter? So Dayton's
um,
Dayton's kind of
yeah.
like pretty average. Nevada's pretty average, a little bit better on the defensive glass. But like you said, here's Washington State out here. Here's
hmm
Colorado. Colorado's impressive in their rebounding as well.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and say that this makes us feel good, but it's maybe not the most determinant stat. Is that fair?
Sure. I think, yeah, I mean, do you, we've had questions in the past like, are we selling out on transition opportunities because we're going for rebounds? And I mean, uh, defense and transition, defending transition opportunities better. So
Ah,
yeah, it's a choice, right? Like,
yep.
this isn't, just because you're great at it doesn't mean that you're not giving up something else. But it does give me some warm and fuzzies about the floor of the team if they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, which is rebounding the heck out of the ball.
Do you want to
Um,
look at something I think is telling is just the 2 point percentage and the 3 point attempts. Here, I'm gonna
yeah, I
take
love
this
that.
off so
That's a good
people
one.
can, because I think something about Dayton that's pretty scary is their 3 point ability. Obviously, we all have 3 point percentage defense PTSD as Arizona fans.
Yeah, totally. Um,
I'm looking for it if you want to
okay.
riff.
Yeah, the other thing that I was looking at is free throw attempt rate.
Hmm.
Um, Arizona, Nevada, I'm sorry, Arizona and Dayton, pretty average. Um, a little bit above average. Nevada is way out there. They take a ton of free throws.
Oh,
So
interesting. Yeah.
yeah, so they're a really good defensive team. They block the heck out of the ball. They steal it. They're a pretty darn good 3 point shooting team. That's they don't shoot free throws all that well, but they take a
Hmm.
ton of them. And so that'll be interesting if we get them. It's going to be a battle of will.
Like, and officiating and just solid.
Yeah.
So this one I think could be a little bit more relevant. So on the Y we've got 2 point percentage, and
Hmm.
on the X we've got 3 point attempt rate. So you can see Dayton is on the higher end of 3 point attempts. This is the quadrant to be in if you want to shoot threes, but you can see
Hmm.
Stanford's in here and San Jose State's in here and Air Force, who's not very good at all, is in here.
Wait, so why 2 point percentage and 3 point attempt rate? Do you mean 3 point percentage?
No, I just wanted to see like what teams that shot the two really
Got it.
efficiently also
Got it.
shot a lot of threes.
Got it.
I don't know. You
Can you
tell
do
me if,
can you do both? Can you do both kind of thing? Or are you leaning on the one? Yeah, and we're a darn good 2 point shooting team, obviously. Um, but
we're
yeah,
not as
it's I
good.
mean
We're not as good as we have been. I think that's part
yeah,
of the bunny effect, you know?
yeah,
Like
and that's probably
Krivas's rim percentage is not as good as we thought it would be, and
yeah,
there's a lot of teams that
uh,
are shooting better from two than we are.
and that speaks to our offensive rebounding. It's just how much of that is fluffed up by misses at the rim.
Well, and you can see basically we're just a little better than Dayton in terms of two point
Hmm.
percentage. We're shooting 55 and they are at 54. So really like that doesn't really help us over the long haul. Their 3 point attempt, 45%. Does that mean 45% of their shots are threes?
Yeah,
And 33. So one in three for us and 4 and 9 for them. So they shoot a lot of
crazy.
threes, which is dangerous,
Yeah, yeah,
as we know.
yeah.
Nevada's similar to us, similar to Washington State.
Yes, they are.
Did you want me to do 2 point rate,
Sure.
or
Let's see.
what were you thinking I would do
Um,
when you asked about 2 point percentage? Was there some other one you
oh,
expect?
I was just curious if you were thinking 3 point percentage slash, are you good at taking threes and do you take them kind of
Oh,
thing?
okay, okay, yeah, yeah. Let's
Because
do that.
we're
We're
actually
actually
really
really
good at,
good. Yes.
yeah, we just don't do it.
Well, this is gonna
With,
anyone who's feeling a little anxious about Dayton, then you get a trigger warning here. Um,
yeah.
so they're about as good as it gets in terms of shooting a lot of threes and making a lot of threes. So yeah.
Yeah,
Here's
it'll
Stanford for
be,
comparison.
yeah,
It's
I
Dayton.
saw what happened.
So
Um,
Dayton's shooting 40% and they shoot a lot.
yeah, and it feels like we, we've had to have a couple of games where we've had to focus on a post player who was highly productive, maybe ran the offense through, and then some surrounding shooters. And I think of Purdue and I think of Duke as some high level examples. And we've had varying success, but at least we've been there before. As a coaching staff, as a team. So I'd like to think that we've got some tape that we could rely upon, some game plan that we could rely upon. Who knows
Totally.
which one we'll see?
Well,
Um,
and and we're really focusing on, what could go wrong for us. But the other side of
Yeah.
shooting so many threes is that,
Hmm.
like your Dayton's really rolling the dice. And if they don't shoot a high percentage, they really have very little chance, I would imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, like they shot 7 of 26 against Duquesne
There you go.
and out in the first round of the A10
Right.
tournament.
Right.
So yeah, if they're not getting a bunch of threes, and especially from guys not named Duran Holmes,
Right.
there's just not a ton going on there.
And this is why we signed somebody like Keyshawn Johnson,
Yeah,
so that, Holmes might go for 20, but let's make it an inefficient 20 with four turnovers and only a few rebounds.
yeah, yeah.
Let's own the rest of the court and not be beaten by, a bunch of three-star guys if we're Arizona good.
If we're
Supposedly.
Arizona,
Right.
God, this fan base, we just feel so
We're
positive about ourselves.
Man, I know I was listening to the Shelby and Jason's podcast, and
Yeah.
they were like, Shelby was even joking about it. She's like immediately going into like, how are they going to screw this up?
It's like,
We're
God, I
so
mean,
like wounded.
we're so desperately in need of a run here. So, do you
Have
want
you
to
have
talk,
you I was going to ask you before you shift,
please?
have you ever seen a region that Arizona's been placed in that felt as wide open and accessible as this? Normally I'm like, oh, we're screwed, but I'm like, oh, it's like last year.
Normally, normally I can see normally I can see 15 different ways that
Yeah.
that we're gonna have a really bad time. And it's tough to say this, right? It feels bad to say, oh, this is really favorable, but it is. I think all the talking heads have noted it. This is a very favorable bracket. If you can get if Long Beach State's a really good matchup for us. If we get Dayton or Nevada, they each have their weaknesses. Nevada is a very well-rounded team, but whereas Dayton is a much weaker defensive team, and like you said, is relying upon that three, and if it's not falling, it really falls apart. But Nevada being a well-rounded team doesn't make them an excellent well-rounded team. They're
Right.
just mediocrely, they're just pretty good.
They're solid. Yeah.
They're solid at both sides of the ball. That shouldn't be enough for us,
They're
right?
like they're like a Washington State. They kind of remind me of Washington State a little bit. Like, yeah,
Trigger
they
warning.
they they could, well, like they I mean, and all of this is to say that it's more about Arizona than any team we face. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. You get Baylor maybe coming out of, or maybe a lot of people like New Mexico. I think people think Clemson are paper tigers. I probably agree with that. Um,
I'd love to play Baylor. I think it'd be 106 to 98 and,
I'd
super
love to.
fun. Yeah.
I'd love to play Baylor as well. I think that'd be a really, really fun matchup. Obviously, we're going to be seeing a lot more of them in the coming years.
Hmm.
Um, I didn't want to play Baylor early in the season, but the times that I have seen them play, quality teams, I haven't been super impressed. So
Well, and our
that
team, our team does the best when you tell them they can't do something. So if they have to sit there and listen for a week about how good Baylor's offense is and how we're not ready for the Big 12, that's the best motivation this team gets. That's when they play
yeah,
well.
yeah, and yeah, I agree, and I guess I like that we're not like, look, like we lost on purpose, right? So that we could have a little chip on our shoulder and nobody's talking about us. And is that good? Is that
It's
it? Good.
amazing.
That's Tommy. That's
It's a nice
Tommy's
spin. That's
genius
flippant.
coaching. Yeah.
If only we could like scrimmage, Long Beach, Dayton, Nevada, Baylor, New Mexico, like all this week so they could beat us and then we could have chips on our shoulders for any possible team.
Yeah, because I mean, you don't lose two in a row, right? So then
Yeah,
we would
right.
easily, yeah, but I see a pretty clear path through our section to get to the Elite Eight.
Yeah.
And that's obviously once you're there, and we've been there, and we know how it feels. It's a coin flip, right? Like you just don't know, but you give yourself an opportunity. You give
Yeah.
yourself that
That's all you
opportunity
can
to
do.
make it through,
Yeah.
and I think that. So that's what I was going to ask you is just where does your hope lie? Like how far do you need us to go before you feel like you
Right.
can you can say this was okay.
Yeah. I mean, I, okay. In the interest of not repeating my hedged answer from a couple weeks ago,
Yeah.
I think the regional final is seems to be a pretty important marker. But I think again, underpinning that is just watching this team qualitatively.
Yeah.
So people are saying it all the time. You can watch this team in the first half and know exactly what's going to happen. And I more so than anything, really, really, and I really believe this. I derive joy from just the quality of play. And so
Yeah.
if they lose in the Sweet 16, but they play really, really hard, then that will feel better to me than if they go to the Elite Eight. Caleb Love goes 7 for 35 and we lose by 5, but play like crap.
Yeah.
Um, it's fun to advance, but it's more fun to be who you are and be
Yeah.
that to the fullest extent. And I think that the the given with this team that I agree with along with most fans is that when this team is at its best, it's hard to see many teams that can actually outplay it. I think Purdue, UConn, and Houston, but I don't know about anyone else. Like if we play our best and Caleb is grounded against Carolina, I wouldn't be scared of them. Could they beat us?
No.
Sure, sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
But but I don't think they're gonna like I think most of the time we beat ourselves,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so I really don't care what the round is. I will feel incomplete if we go out and beat ourselves. And obviously if it's earlier in the tournament, it's gonna feel, worse. But
Lot worse.
I just want to see them like care and put the pedal to the metal and really freaking go for it. And I think that'll take them far. They've got, if you look at the roster, there's no weaknesses where you say, oh, if only this team had this. So it's really all about heart and focus and connectedness. And if they get those things to a B+ level, um, I think they could get to that regional final and
Yeah.
certainly beyond, If they
Yeah.
don't, I think, Dayton has the makings of any other loss blueprint we've had this year, and
Sure.
no Cats fan would be surprised. But let's not be that cliche. Let's go out and like actually meet the challenge.
That would be welcome, very, very welcome. I mean, it sounds like even the Sweet 16 win or the Sweet 16 run that we had, however, whatever, 2 years ago,
Mhm.
not very satisfying for you, maybe because those
Uh,
first games getting there, we really didn't even play that well. And
God,
then,
after the first half against Wright State, we looked
right,
just kind of flat. And honestly, I thought TCU outplayed us.
right,
They maybe played exceptionally well, but it makes sense now that you alerted me. And now I'm on board with hoop math. And um, if I'd known how bad our defensive rebounding was, that would have made more sense because they just killed us.
mhm,
If we could have gotten a defensive rebound, we would have won that game by 8 or 10. But
yeah,
it didn't feel like we earned it. It felt like we sort of
oh yeah,
stole it. And then you steal a win and then you come out against Houston and you basically just kind of like don't give yourself much of a chance. Even though that game was
yeah.
actually it was at points, it was actually up for the taking, but we just
It
never
was
felt
more
like we had.
competitive than
Yeah.
fans want to acknowledge, but yeah, we
I
kind of,
watched the replay and I was like, gosh, we do look better. I could see where
yeah.
that team had some pieces that I took for granted because like Terry was excellent. Mathurin
Terry
had a
was excellent at the end.
Mathurin
Yeah.
struggled in the first half, but he had a really good second half, and we just didn't have a point
Yeah.
guard. But
No, I know. And Pella finished strong in that one too. I
totally.
think he had a layup to finish it. And so, you feel, yeah, but part of that, injuries, right? And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
thank goodness that this is, if it was on, if it was possible to put it on the plot chart, we would, but, and I've seen it elsewhere, number of minutes, missing out of the rotation for the year, it's nothing for us. And, this is, the healthiest that Arizona's been in a long time, heading into March, certainly. So
And
a good bracket.
that's part of what makes me so disappointed in the season is because that is such a gift to have that level
Yeah,
of
it's a
health.
huge gift.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And if one of these four seniors that we so heavily rely upon, was not, with us during this season at any point, you do wonder like what could we have even held up?
Right,
But,
right.
um, yeah, we've got our guys, we are healthy. I'd love to think that we're gonna, be talking next week and laughing about how great those games were and, how focused this team is, and looking forward to the seemingly inevitable, Hunger Games esque, Caleb Love versus UNC game.
Mm. Be so fun. Before we wrap it up, I wanted
Yeah,
maybe this is more of an April question, but just because we're through the Pac-12 tournament, if if you if you could have told Tommy Lloyd in October, you said, "All right, Tommy, you're going to undergo no major injuries.
yeah,
You're going to go 25-8. No matter what you do, you're going to lose 8 games.
more
But
than
no
I
matter,
thought.
yeah, but no matter what you do, you're going to win or sort of like not lose the Pac-12 regular season championship."
To be mean.
It's sort of like beating TCU. It's like we didn't lose, but
Yeah.
um, do you think, and this is totally unfair, but do you think he would, as of today, look back and say, darn it, I wish I would have worked in 9, 10, and 11 on the bench a little bit more during the season?
Well, if it got you the same results, you'd say yes, of course, right?
Mhm.
But you know, I'm sure that he is doing what he thinks it has got, continues to lead us to success. That you and I disagree. That I think that it would have been better to play those guys more. Um, as Paulie and Philly especially, it just seems like those guys are weapons that just really have rusted on the bench, unfortunately. Um, but there's a lot of guys in this team that deserve minutes, and that there's a lot
Yeah.
of the guys in this in the rotation that deserve their stats. They deserve their shots. They deserve the opportunity to shine. And so, um, I maybe my only ask may have been just, hey, dial back the minutes on the core,
Love. Yeah, Love
seniors,
played a
and
lot of minutes. Yeah.
yeah, dial back Love, dial back Pella, and let KJ and
Hmm.
Bradley at least get a bunch more so that they're more prepared. But um, it's tough to say. It's
Yeah. It's hard to,
sometimes it's I
yeah.
I, I texted you. Sometimes it's not. I think about recruiting, right?
Yep.
Sometimes it's not like what actually is best for this game or this season. It's you got to think, hey, I need to make sure that I'm feeding mouths because
Yeah.
I can't lose a relationship based on, well, I got to play Philip Borovichin in some minutes. So, sorry, Caleb, you don't really get your shots.
Yeah.
Or sorry, KJ, like, you only get 10 minutes this game because I got to slice off 5 for him.
Yeah, I wouldn't have taken minutes from any of our 6, 7, 8. It would have been
Yeah.
Pella, Boswell, Love. I mean, he took a lot of minutes from Keyshot. There were moments where Keyshot
Yeah.
sat
Yeah.
for long periods of time, and I don't know what that was about, but I think Caleb played a lot of 36, 38-minute
Yeah.
games. Like I think the win-win there would have been to see if the team can stand on its own 2 feet without the alpha, is a really good developmental opportunity. And, he could play 32 minutes and
Totally.
Philly B gets 3 and maybe Paulie gets 3 and someone else, Pella sits 2 extra minutes. Like I don't think that would have been too difficult in about half our games. I think half the games didn't set up well for that, sure.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll talk more about that in a few weeks, but hopefully we are talking next week about a Sweet 16 in LA. And right, it's in LA, right? You might go.
Yeah, the Sweet 16 is in LA, and the Elite Eight would be as well. And I'm ready to get back out there and
Yes,
root and possibly get my heart broken in LA again.
that's all
We'll
right.
see.
I think my new approach, Cats fans, if you want to take this, if it helps, ignore me if it doesn't. My new approach is like we've already survived like the worst of the worst. So what the hell do we have to lose? Let's just go in and have some fun. And if we lose, we lose, and we're on to the next. And next year will be fun anyway. Um, and maybe and at some point, we're gonna break through. That's my faith.
Yeah, that's a very Zen approach.
Or I'm just in denial. We'll see.
Yeah, this is called coping. Quick, breaking news. AP All American pulled, or results dropped. Caleb Love, third team AP All American, so he made the Sporting News third team. He's now made the Associated Press third team. So seems like he's going to run the table as a unanimous third team. TB, I think there's 4 All-American teams in total. I can't recall, 3 or 4, but
Well,
yeah.
well deserved.
Um, yeah,
Congratulations.
yeah, I think it was. And yeah, that's cool for him. It's great for the school.
Well, it's kind of
Um,
a sneaky stat that Tommy is 3 for 3. Each year he's had an All-American in three different players,
ooh, wow.
right?
Yeah. That's
Um,
that's that's tough.
that's pretty tough to do. And uh,
Very tough.
2 years straight, he had most improved. And I don't think that's going to happen this year. But yeah, he in Pac-12.
Well,
But
yeah,
three,
we didn't get it this year, right? Those were
right?
already
Who got
released.
who
Yeah.
got the most improved?
Um, call.
Miles Rice or someone
Honestly, but
maybe?
it
Yeah.
was oh no, it was the French big up at Stanford.
Right now, yeah.
Renault, yeah, I believe it was him,
All right,
which is well deserved.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, if you're just preaching to the choir, I was the one saying 2 years ago that that guy would be all conference and if he played for Arizona, he's good. Yeah.
You didn't have a podcast 2 years ago to prove it on, so
Tommy.
unfortunately.
Yeah, and all those guys hitting the portal, Arizona fans, you don't want Caden Carlisle, man. That guy's like a worse, he's like a flashier version of Kirk Risa, but
I can't wait for our eventual. I can wait because our eventual portal takes because
it's going to be at
we're
least three
only
weeks.
we're only going to, yeah, exactly, we're only going to give them after we are done with the
That's
parade.
right. That's right. And that's when like more that's when it really heats up in earnest too after the
Yeah,
tournament.
yeah,
When,
yeah,
when you're
yeah,
talking about Power Five, a lot of these guys are
yeah,
kind of paper tigers and
yeah.
you want Tom I do trust Tommy at this point. He's done a really good job of sussing out who's a good fit. And it's not necessarily the flashy guy who scored 18 points a game for Pepperdine. Although I like that guy's hoop math
You do like
numbers,
that guy,
but
yeah.
Evan Maya doesn't like him at all. So yeah.
Boo.
Cool, man. Well, hey, good luck. Good luck. I hope that we're talking
Good
next.
luck to
Good
you.
luck. It's
Good luck with
like
whatever happens.
like I always tell you on text, I don't ever use this colloquialism, but I always end up finding myself saying Godspeed because that's what it feels like when you're an Arizona fan. You
Yeah.
you turn on that channel and you're like, man, you never know what's coming. So it could be the greatest, most inspiring 40 minutes, or it could be absolute heart-wrenching.
Just
Um,
absolute misery.
that's why we do it. So bear down,
Yeah.
Wildcat fans, and show up in Salt Lake, and we'll see you on the other side.
Yeah. Bear down, y'all.